He's larger than life. He'll give you strife. He's Todd. He's tall, he's mean. He's labeling machine. He's Todd. Rides a motorbike. He'll tell you what it's like. He's Todd. Don't know what he'll say. He'll scare the kids away. He's Todd. He's Todd.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome to another episode of BS with Todd. And if this is your first time out there, we typically regard BS as something that HR doesn't want me to say, but in this particular instance, it's Brother Solutions. And so this is our 80th umpteen episode. I'm not exactly sure, but we're continuing with kind of a new hot topic. Well, it's hotter these days. Security. Now, from my previous experience with security, as a kid, it meant running away from security. All right. And then the other thing is, I actually did security. I was a bouncer for 15 years. But obviously that's not the type of security we're talking about here today. And so today's guest is actually David Flores III. And I had the opportunity to travel with David a couple of weeks ago, right, David?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah, San Antonio and Austin. And he is lovingly known in his stomping grounds as D3. All right? Did I get okay? So I got that correct,
right.
too. So we're going to be talking security and you know, in particular, labeling. And I got something towards the end of the show that I think is a very hot topic. And I'm going to show you live on here how it's done. And that's basically utilizing QR codes out in the field. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I hope everyone out there is well. All right. David, you're looking lovely this morning. Thank you for joining me. All right. And so David with MBH Reps, again, they're in Texas. But number one, again, thank you for coming on. I want to ask you a little bit. You've been in the industry, judging by your gray hairs like I have, right? You've been in the industry for a while. And actually, that's what the industry is going to do to you because I'm only 31 years old. Anyway, David, tell me a little bit about what you're doing currently, who you're repping, and then the other thing, part two, is I want to talk a little bit about where security's been, where it is now, and where you think it's going to. So, David, tell the audience a little bit about you and what you do.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on today, Todd. Really appreciate it. Had a blast when you were down here in Texas, showing you what we do down here south. And yeah, I'm with MBH Reps. You know, some of the lines that we represent besides, you know, Brother, of course, we represent Turning AI, which is our video line, Pro Data Key, which is another cloud-based access control platform, a Proterio cable, OCC fiber, Trip Light by Eaton, the Pro V solutions, and Eaton Beeline for Datacom, low voltage, and basket tray. And we have some other ones out there also, the whole NSI line, tools, and Lin Electronics, Technologics Networks, and Test Pro by AEM. There's a couple others, but those are the main bullet points there. So I've been with them for a little bit now, and yeah, I come from the industry. You know, I grew up in distribution, and so where I see it coming from was, you know, VHS tapes on the stocking shelves at your local distributor, and that was video then, you know, and we've come quite a far way since then, and the CRT monitors, and now, you know, IP video, 8 megapixel cameras are, you know, basically what you get and what you should expect now. And cabling has changed also. You know, everything's all over cat cabling now. And so with that comes, you know, labeling your cameras and, you know, knowing where that door ends up, what IT closet it is in, because everything has a network drop to it now. You know, so
say you grew up in the industry, and folks, he's not joking. I think I heard a story of your grandfather.
That's
Was it your
correct.
grand?
That's
Okay, so
correct.
your grandfather started, I guess, or was it SGI, or was a
It was
major factor?
it originally it was Burglar Stop was the first distribution slash install company that he had, which transformed into Texas System Supply. And then from there, they wanted to open a branch, I think, in Oklahoma or Phoenix. And, that didn't really sit well to have Texas System Supply over the border. So uh, SGI came into fruition. And I think in the end of it all, there was 13 branches total before they decided to sell out. It was getting too hard to be a small um, a small distribution company amongst the ADIs and the West Coast of the world.
Well, you're very well known and revered in the industry. I know that the calls we made, we stopped into several of our distribution partners there, and we stopped into some integrators, contractors, and you're very well revered. I mean, I get the opposite. Usually the door is locked before I go in, but no, I mean, it was a breath of fresh air. Because I'm learning. I'm the data dude, man. I'm nothing. I'm datacom low voltage guy. So
Hmm.
it gave me the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the industry. And as you just mentioned a few minutes ago, whether it be the VHS TV, the VCR recording on the VCR, and the CCTV, the closed captioned, and stuff like that, it really has come a long way. And really, it's more of it's a piece of the network now, because you've got those devices, your security devices, including access control at times. They're going back into the network, right? So even though for security, I mean, I know for data, all right, you've got EIA TIA 606D now, right, which is
Hmm.
how you should label. Security, I know years ago tried to do something like that, all right? And I don't know if that ever came to fruition, but I would just say, from my standpoint, again, part of the security network, their assets, number one, all right? You want to make them easily identifiable out in the field. So I would say, as long as you follow the 606D standards when you're doing security, you should be fine. Cable
Absolutely.
wrapping the pad, or the wrapping the, but labeling the patch panel and so forth and whatnot. Where we are right now with this being an integral part of the network, David, what are your thoughts about what do you see down the road? I mean, as far as how this security, and it's always developing and growing, but where do you see all this going?
So, I mean, and I won't say that it's there already, but in a lot of cases, it is there. We're seeing that in specs, they're labeling, in specifications that every camera has to be labeled on, you know, on the junction box above the ceiling, on the cable itself at the camera, on the cable itself at the switch, on the camera itself even needs to have the rack it's going to, the the port it's going to, and what port it is. So those labels that we're seeing out there are anywhere from 6 to 12 inches long all the way around the camera, which where I'm going with that doesn't look great when you have 300 cameras rolling out into a tower at a hospital, and you got a label wrapping all the way around the base of it. So um, there's definitely solutions that are out there that I know we're going to talk about later here that can help out a lot on that, because that just looks terrible, and I see it all the time. Being in the industry, I walk into a doctor's office or a hospital or anywhere, and I look up at a camera, and either there's a label on it or there's not, and if there's not, there needs to be one, and if there is, it looks atrocious.
Yep. So I know that when we were in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we were in Austin, and we went into one of our distribution partners, and part of what they're doing is basically pre-labeling or prefabbing the cameras. All right.
Yes,
And
that's correct.
it was quite an operation out there. There were boxes stacked full of cameras from the floor to the ceiling. And they're utilizing our P-Touch editor software with the PTP 750 as far as a printer. And essentially what they're doing is they're doing IP addresses and basically whatever else the customer wants on those physical devices. And the whole idea behind that, especially like you mentioned, if you got hundreds, if not thousands of cameras, it's a painstaking job to do, right?
Yep.
You got to label all those things. And I remember showing Kevin, that was his name, Kevin.
Yes.
You know, he was hand typing everything, you know, on a keyboard. And I said, listen, I said, just pull up a spreadsheet, man. You know, you got all your IP addresses. You got thousands of IP addresses. Pull up a spreadsheet and let me show you on P-Touch Editor. And it'll work like a champ, all right? We also talked to him about what I'm going to show in a little bit, which is adding QR codes. And so one of the things, and let me set up this scenario and chime in. You know, my fat butt has never been up on a 6 or 8 or 10-foot ladder installing a camera, all right? But typically what happens is somebody's got to get up on a ladder. They got to throw that camera up there. They got to basically run some cable back to the IDF or MTC or whatever you want to call it these days, and eventually into a patch panel. And then from a patch panel, it goes into a server. So more or less, again, a piece of the network there. But what happens? What happens if there's a problem with that camera? All right, so contractor gets a call. He's got to go troubleshoot a camera. Well, he brings the ladder in with him. Then it's up in the ceiling. Then he's got to pop the tile next to it. Then he's got to take a look at, you know, hopefully that cable was labeled on the backside that'll tell him everything he knows. What I'm seeing, that's not really the case. It's not being labeled correctly, right?
Or at all, for that matter.
Right.
You know, you got your cable pullers in there, and they're just there to pull cable. You know, and once it's there, they're done with it. In their eyes, they don't take it to the next step and get that label printed off or even ask about it. They're there to pull cable, and when they're done, they're done. You know.
Yeah. So the you know, then it becomes a tone and tag situation where you've got to put a tone on that cable, get off the ladder, go find the closet. Hopefully you got access to the closet, but find the closet and then, you know, tone that thing out to figure out what port it's in. It's funny you mentioned one of the things that I did run into is that when we were doing our counter day that morning, there was a electrician outside doing some work. He was running some conduit.
Yep.
And so I'm always nosy, you know, and you know, I asked him flat out, I said, well, you know, what are you using for labeling? And he said, and I kid you not, he said, we only run the wire. That's it. And it's up to somebody else to come out here and terminate that and then label it. But if you recall, I got pictures of that closet and there wasn't a damn thing labeled. Not a damn thing. And there was a couple of Sharpie things. Remember that? The flags and whatever. So again, if it's not labeled correctly, you're talking about a lot more labor, right? I mean, a lot more labor.
Oh, a lot more. Hours and hours.
Well, and so there's a way you can avoid that. And the best way to avoid that is basically, like you said, label it up front. Now, your customer may have their own labeling, I don't know what you call it, their own tribal knowledge of labeling or their own labeling they developed. Don't argue with the customer, but if the customer's open and if they're caught up with everything, they're going to want to do things that are like 606A, or excuse me, A, listen to me, 606D now. Well, I'm going back a few years, but so David, you've seen it all. You know, you've done it all. You've installed this stuff, I would imagine, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so, you know, I'm sure you can back me up where if it's not labeled correctly, then you're in for some hurt on the backside, right?
You're looking at a good half a day just to figure out, you know, where that cable's going to, if there's a problem with it, and fixing it, right? You're looking at your tech there for half a day to fix that solution when in reality it should be an hour service call. You know,
Yep.
a vehicle rollout, 1 hour service call, have them on to the next one. Um,
So
your customer's not going to
yeah,
want to pay that half day service call when
no. And that's the other thing too, is that, somebody's got to foot this bill. You
right.
know what I mean? And so if I were the customer, I'd make damn sure that everything was labeled correctly, because they got their in-house IT people most of the time too. So,
Mm-hmm.
it may be something that they can troubleshoot on their own, but if it's not labeled correctly, I guarantee that contractor may get a call, the installing contractor may get a call, and they may not get paid for it at the end
Right.
of the day,
Yeah.
worst case scenario. So, all
I'll
right.
tell you, I
So,
wouldn't want to pay that bill.
no, no. And me being a world-renowned tight ass, no, that would never happen.
No.
But one of the things that we were out there during our San Antonio and Austin was, I have this theory, right? And this theory is that at times, if you're doing let's say a service call, a trouble ticket, imagine not even having to bring a ladder into that facility. All right. And here's the way it's done. And you're going to see here that basically I'm going to back up my BS, but everywhere we went and we were talking about what you're going to see in a minute here, it was really an eye opener, because they didn't even think about this. All right. Now, believe me, I'm no genius. I'm far from. But I just like making life simple on everyone, including myself. And so I showed this to David earlier. All right. And it works like a champ. So the whole idea behind this is creating QR codes. All right. Keep in mind, on a QR code, if you're using alpha and numeric characters, you can get up to 4,200 pieces of information onto a QR code. All right. And so there's a ton of information you can put there. And so what I've done here is, I'll show you in a second, but well, hell, I'll just show you right now. All right. Let's do, I'm going to try and share this. Now it worked earlier. Let's see if it's going to work for me now. Let's go to window. All right. And all right. So let me bring this up, and hopefully everyone at home can see it. Come on. All right. I hope everyone can see that. So what I did is, this morning I went into our P-Touch editor software, and I'm just going to design a label, and I put a simplistic QR code up there, and I thought, oh, what the hell, I'll put in fact, what is this? Let's see, this property right here, I believe, is an EAN. What it is as far as a protocol, it is a code 39. Okay, that looks good. Let me bring this back up. Okay, does that appear? Oh, okay. I hope this is recording all this stuff. I'm using some new sharing software. So anyway, what I've done is I've created a simplistic label, and then on this barcode, all right, the QR code. Now I can take this QR code and I can put it anywhere on the label, should I see fit. Now it's not going to work for me. Oh, there it is. So I've resized it, and I can actually put it up here. All right. You could put it anywhere, but I'm going to pull this off and make this a little bit larger, because I'm going to basically show everyone out there what I get when I scan this. All right. So on your phone, and this is important, on your phone, everyone seems to think that the camera is going to do a QR code. Right? It does not. This particular camera on your iPhone, all right, is looking for a URL, right? So it's not going to pick up that QR code. There is one out there called QR Reader, and I hope you can see it up in the right-hand corner here, but it's free, QR Reader. So what'll happen is I'll open up QR Reader, and it looks like a camera, and here's my messy desk. But watch what happens when I just scan, boom, right there. Now, this information is got installed today, as a matter of fact, by Todd Morris. Here's my IP address. It goes to the first floor north. I guess I the ampersand Florida North, rack A, patch panel 2, port 19. Now imagine if you're a tech out in the field and all you're going to do is you're going to scan that QR code. Let's say you got an 8-foot ceiling, right? You're going to scan that QR code and it's going to pop up with something like this. I mean, you can put all the information you want in here. You can put the type of camera it is. You can put whatever, right? Again, you got 4,200 pieces of information that you can put inside this QR code. But I'm a tech out in the field and I just scan that camera and I immediately know to go to the first floor north.
Yep.
So David, what do you think of that? Now, back when you were putting this stuff in, this would have been a little more helpful, don't you think?
I would have saved me at least an hour and a half right there of getting up and finding out, maybe if it was labeled, an hour and a half of just finding out where that cable went to and getting into that closet. If I have that information, I'm calling the supervisor and giving me access to that closet right away and checking my power on my port, and
there you go.
And we're
right
done.
There. Proof's in the pudding. And so again, I'm also going to show you on the app how to create this out in the field. So obviously I've done this on PTouch Editor, but let's say that you're doing a field install, maybe a onesie twosie, and you want to put this information onto a QR code and print right on the spot, and then put that up on whatever device you may have. All right. So again, the whole idea behind this is not only can you use the QR codes on everything out on the floor, but you can also use the QR codes for in the closet. If let's say that you're in a big MDF, you got multiple racks. Let's say you're in the data center and you want to see where these hops go to, from rack A to rack H, from row B to row C, patch panel A to patch panel C, port 1 to whatever. All that can be done on a QR code. All right. Very, very, very simple to do. Now, here's how I'm going to do it on the actual app. So on the app, and let me move this over here. On the app itself, we have our new Pro Label tool. And this Pro Label tool does a bunch of stuff. It can do your patch panels for you, cable wraps. Well, hell, let me just show it to you. So let me go in here to this. So here's our Pro Label tool. As you can see, patch panels, cable wraps, blah, 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 yada, yada. All right, but the beautiful thing about this is that you can actually get in there and you can do barcodes on the fly. So I'm going to go up to QR code here. I'm going to double tap this. Right now, if you look, it's got the characters QR code. Well, I don't want that. So I'm going to talk to this QR code. Installed by Todd Morse. Closet A, patch panel B, port 1, installed on 11/8/2023. I hit done. There it is. All right. So you can actually print this barcode right now, put it on your device. And if I go back into the properties, again, there's everything right there. All right. Installed by Todd Morse.
And something else that, you mentioned any device we have out there in the field. And I think what a lot of people fail to realize is, when you're doing access control and you have a lock that's down, troubleshooting that lock can take half a day, even if the wire is labeled. Most of the time it's not, though. You got to get a ladder, get up in the ceiling, and hopefully that banana peel is labeled. But if you have this QR code stuck on the back of that lock, when you take that lock off, you know exactly where it's going to, if it's power on the panel or if it's a separate power supply, ran somewhere else. Same with your other access control devices. That's going to save you tons of time troubleshooting in the field. And I saw that more than anything when I was a technician, just tons of time saving right there.
A quick rundown, and again, you mentioned it earlier. We kind of flew through that. But as far as labeling all your components out there, David, would you give the folks out there an idea, if you were back out in the field doing this stuff, what would you label from head to toe?
Oh, you name it, everything would have a label on it. That would be something that I would put in the hands of a PM, if you will, instead of, a Tech 101. Have while the PM's on site, make sure that he has, the app and the label maker on his hip and just going around putting labels on every single thing out there as they're being installed, as he's doing, his QCing and, managing the project, if you will. That's what I'd have my project managers doing every single project,
All right.
because
So
the low guys aren't going to do it. They just get lazy and they're just not. They're looking to get the job done as soon as possible and get on to the next one. And once the devices are up and installed, did they label the cable behind it? Are you sure? You
yep.
don't know until you're back out there and it's a service call. And guess what? You're under workmanship warranty for the first year, no matter what. I don't care what project you're on, and you're footing that bill. So
Well,
everything needs a label. Absolutely.
you know what? I love the way you think, man. I love it. And so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna wrap this thing up. And then December 7th. I know. You know what? How do I talk a half an hour about this? All right. So what we're gonna do is this is a little known feature that we include inside the cases of all of our printers, and it's a patch panel ruler. And even going back to the security side, I mean, it goes to a patch panel. And I don't care what manufacturer you guys are using, all right? And there's a plethora of manufacturers out there. They all have different port spacing. So what have we done in the past, right? We take our little, PTD 210, right? And we type in A01 space, 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 A02 space, space, space. And you know what? It doesn't matter. You're going to be wrong regardless. So the whole idea behind measuring a patch panel with this is to get your port spacing. Because once you get your port spacing, you can enter the port spacing into your handheld printer, or you can use the Pro Label Tool app, right, with some of our printers, and your port spacing is spot on. It also has a ruler for faceplates. I don't know how many faceplates back when I was working. You down there inside the cube and you print off a label. You cut a little off the left and a little off the right. All right, to make it fit inside that window. So anyway, we're going to talk about how to get the right measurements out there on faceplates, and we'll talk about cable wraps and stuff like that. But
Hey, Todd, that's a great tool, because size really does matter.
Well, it does. You got to have the right measurements. Well, boy, never a dull moment. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah,
All right.
I really appreciate you having me today, Todd.
We'll see if that makes the cut. But it is a true statement, so how can it not make the cut? Anyway, thank you very much, David. I'll be talking to you very soon. We got a bunch of irons in the fire down in San Antonio and Austin from our last trip. So we will be talking soon. And if you have any questions for David, particularly look for his information at the end of this, and then tune back in December 7th. And excuse me, we're going to have a show about sizing and measurements. So anyway, thank you very much. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy.